for this soap, I really wanted to try to make a cake soap. I had spent some time with some melt and pour and putting it into molds and creating cherries. So I decided, hey, let's make a cake soap. So I wanted to have a chocolate cake. My vision was a chocolate cake. First layer chocolate, and the middle layer some kind of strawberry swirly something with more chocolate in it. And then the top layer, another layer of chocolate. And of course the top with some frosting and some extra chocolate deliciousness at the top. And then at the very, very tippy top, some beautiful cherries. So I got a little impatient, and you'll probably be able to see what I'm talking about in the end result. Keep watching. Off screen, I've mixed my oils and my lye together and added some Hershey's chocolate powder, Hershey's cocoa powder, to my soap batter, along with just a little bit of brown mica, and mixed it up with my birthday cake scent, which smells a little bit like vanilla, but not exactly like vanilla. I think it smells like a spicy kind of vanilla, like a hint of vanilla. It's still pleasant, but it's not your typical vanilla scent that you smell like in a candle or something. And I continue here adding my second layer. I had to wait for a while for my first layer to set and be nice and firm so that I can pour the second layer on. I really wanted to have a bit of a strawberry swirl. So I add a little bit of brown mixture into the pink mixture. I wanted the middle cake layer to be sort of like a chocolate and strawberry swirl frosting type of thing. So I had to be very gentle when pouring the batter in here. And the way I poured it made what I think is a really cool swirl. I need to try this swirl again. It's very fine and zigzagged, I guess. It looks really cool in the cake, I think. This was my first time using this mica powder, this kind of reddish mica powder. I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more red, but it wasn't. It ended up being kind of pink. But that's okay, because it's more of a frosting, strawberry frosting, than it is a cherry frosting, what I was thinking. And on top of that, it's not a real cake, it's soap. So I just have to finish pouring in all my batter in the mold. And then after that, I need to wait for about an hour. After I did that, I start mixing up my next layer, which is another chocolate layer. And for this one, I added more Hershey's cocoa. I wanted a deeper chocolatey color. Super chocolate. But with a swirl, a vanilla swirl on top. So I added a little bit of titanium dioxide to some of my remaining batter and mixed it in. And this one I think was my absolute favorite little swirl. It made a whole bunch of cool little zigzags. Just a very delicate, swirly layer, I guess. It looks really cool, I think. And if you can see, the batter does not look very dark at this point, but in the finished bar of soap, it is much, much darker, and that's because of the fragrance that I used that has a fairly high percentage of vanillin, which tends to darken as it ages a little. In my case, it was a lot. And I on purpose left it a little bit lighter than I thought it would be needed, because I knew it was going to darken and I didn't want it to end up being looking like charcoal or something. So this almost looks like a creamy caramel, maybe even a latte something color, but the finished result is much, much darker. And the swirl here, I absolutely loved this fine little swirl, and you can kind of see layer by layer as I keep pouring it in. And I add a little bit more each time so that I can make sure that the white is fairly evenly distributed throughout the layer. I didn't want just like half of the layer to have a white swirl in it. I wanted it to be pretty uniform throughout the entire top layer. And at this point, I was thinking, oh no, the next step is for me to, of course, finish pouring all of this stuff in here, but I need to start piping, and I've only done that really once before, and that was with the landscape soap, where I did little tiny flowers on top of the mountain soap, the same color as the sky and clouds, just the mixture all kind of mixed together. So I was pretty nervous because I had never done that before, and I did have to wait a little bit to let the soap firm up so that I could place the frosting on top. And for the frosting, I just used my same recipe that I used for the rest of the soap, only I just let it sit for longer until it reached the right consistency. And the consistency that I needed was something like real, actual edible frosting, where you kind of put the spoon on it and lift it up and see if the peaks stay there. And if the peaks stay there, then you're ready to start frosting. If the peak collapses, then you just need to let the soap firm a little bit longer, so just keep checking on it every 5-10 minutes, depending on your recipe. If it's a fast-moving recipe, then kind of stay with the frosting. If it's a slow-moving recipe, then probably every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, only because I'm paranoid. That was me. I was checking on it every 10 minutes. And here I just, like I said, I tried to make sure that the swirl was evenly distributed with brown and white all together, and just whatever was left over I was scraping and making sure that the mold was full of all of the soap that I can get out of my pitchers. For some reason, this color combination really reminds me of Jupiter. I don't know if it's the swirls or just the kind of brown white with the little lines. Every single time I see this color combination, especially in soap when it's all shiny. I don't know why shiny, it doesn't make sense. I just think of Jupiter. I think that the red spot is hiding somewhere. I must just need to get every single little tiny bit of soap out of these containers. Come on, get out. I really didn't realize how much time I spend just scraping the containers very efficiently, and not really that efficiently because there's still a bit left over that is bothering me right now. This was the second cake soap I made, and I think I improved the design a little bit. I really liked the layered look, and I think I've only had layered cake once in my life. Anyway, the look of layered cake soap is so pretty, so I really had to try it again, especially with something swirly. And so this soap was born. and then gently bounce it. Make sure that all the soap is in all the nooks and crannies, and then we wait. And I've got my piping bag ready, and I'm thinking, this isn't too bad. The difficult part is getting all of the little, I don't know what to call them, blobs, very even. But I guess that comes with experience and more piping. And you just have to keep refilling the bag. And for the frosting, I really wanted it to have some of the vanilla frosting in, mixed with the chocolate frosting, so that there would be a really interesting pattern when you cut the soap, so that it wouldn't just be a big fluffy cloud of white. It would just have some interesting chocolatey brown and white in there. Not really a swirl, but just a little variation of color. And then at this point I was thinking, ooh, it's almost time for cherries. But I wanted to make sure that all of the tops were fairly even and large enough so that everybody got a good size bar. And of course, the little cherries. This was just melt and pour that I had around. I found that we had some sort of white colored melt and pour, and the color didn't really take very well in the white melt and pour, but it took really well with the clear melt and pour, so that is what we ended up using for the cherries. Clear melt and pour with some of our red mica. And then the finished result, I was so excited and so proud of myself. And then it's time to cut. Apologies for the Blair Witchiness movement of the cameraman. At this time, it was very difficult to cut the soap with our little cheese cutter there, because the soaps were way too big for it, so I had to manually cut it by hand with a cake cutter, actually, and it worked out well enough. The cake soap looks like it's hand cut, so it is hand cut with a wire cutter. It was pretty difficult, and I'm only showing 2 bars because it was rough. It was more trying to make sure that everything was there and aligned properly. But that's the end result. You see the interesting chocolate in the middle. Thanks for watching.